Alright, hey there guys, today we're gonna do something slightly different. So you know those General MIDI modules that you can use to get better sound from various MS-DOS games and so forth, like the Roland SC55 and so forth. Well, those used to be very cheap until a number of years ago when people figured out that they could be used for retro gaming, and retro gaming became a lot more popular. So now buying a Roland sound module or something like that is really quite expensive, and I'm not prepared to spend that kind of money. Like, my price range is more in the $0 range. So I looked around my ever increasing pile of just stuff I have and as it turns out, I had a keyboard that I wasn't using that I had, well, long story, but I got it for free at one point, and it works, and it's from around 2007, I believe, and it's just, you know, one of these normal cheap beginners keyboards, and I believe it's called the Yamaha PSR-E313, and here's a picture of it. So this, I figured, you know, can I take this apart and make a MIDI module out of it? Because I sure wasn't using it as a keyboard, and it was just taking up space, and it worked fine, but I had no use for it really. But I do kind of want a MIDI module, so I figured, you know, let's take this thing apart, let's look at it. And I've already done that, not on camera though, but anyway, so here's where we are. These are the guts of the Yamaha PSR-E313 keyboard. And of course, if you want to do something similar to this, you don't need that exact model of keyboard. I used it because that was the one I had laying around. But it is General MIDI compatible. It is also compatible with XG Lite. So XG is Yamaha's proprietary extensions to the General MIDI standard, much like Roland GS. But XG Lite is like, I'm not sure what's different exactly, but it is like a light version of the standard, so some things aren't supported. But I've played back some XG music through this, and it sounds really good. It can do some quite remarkable things that General MIDI just can't do. So anyway, yeah, this, when I opened this up, basically there were three main circuit boards. So let's just start with the boring one. So this takes the power, and it takes just I believe a 9 volt or a 12 volt maybe. I do have the power supply. And this is the headphone output. So yeah, this is that, the power and amplifier section. This is the audio amplifier, and this is a voltage regulator attached to this big bulky heatsink. And there's not much to look at. This communicates with the main board through this ribbon cable. And then on a separate board, but you know, once upon a time it was attached here, but this would go out to the chassis of the keyboard, and this is the volume control. So this we're gonna keep, and we're gonna keep this entire board actually. On the other side you can see pads for various buttons, and I did figure out the key matrix for the few buttons we are going to keep. More on that later. So this is the main board, and the power and amplifier board goes in here. These three used to go to the keyboard, the actual keyboard part of it. So those I removed, and we'll get to these in a minute. And on the back side there is an LCD display which can display, you know, various things, what sound is selected currently, and There's actually supposed to be a backlight behind here, but I don't have it at the moment. Originally, I did want to use this LCD display, but the problem is it is mounted to the board with these flexible rubber zebra things. I don't think there is a way I can use this, because obviously when I make a module out of this, it's going to be laying down, and I don't want the display on the top. So I'm probably going to have to live without the display, I think. I was considering using an off-the-shelf normal LCD and an Arduino to make some kind of display happen, but there's not a lot you want to display. Alright, so here is the third board, and this used to be as big as this, but I cut it down because this is the only part I need. So I basically just cut off the rest to make it fit easier in the case later. So this is the actual MIDI interface part, and this is MIDI in, MIDI out, and a sustain pedal. So there's not much to this. It used to be that this had a lot of button things on it as well, but here's these cables that I hooked up. There used to be a ribbon cable with all the button connections. I removed that, and I just reverse engineered, so to speak, the combinations for the buttons we need to use, and those buttons are basically reverb on and off, and you can hold that button to select a reverb type. There are a lot of different reverbs, Hall and plate and so forth, and then there's plus buttons and minus buttons that allow you to cycle through the instruments and also cycle through the reverb settings. So there's basically, we're going to keep 3 buttons from this part of the board, and on the other board there's just 1 button, and I just kind of did a real hack job here and soldered these to it. This is actually the power on. It's like I'm going to replace this by a tack switch, but it's just a momentary switch that powers it on. So basically when I touch these together it starts, and when I hold them together for like a second it turns off. So yeah, that's the idea. We're gonna take these things and we're gonna turn them into a standalone MIDI module for use with games. And then we're gonna put them in. This is the only part of the project that I actually bought for money. This is just a plastic case that should fit these parts, just to make it look a little bit nice. Yeah, so this is just a plastic case, and it's got these aluminium panels on the front and back, and I'm gonna probably replace these by plastic because I do have access to a laser engraver and cutter, so I'm gonna cut out some plastic because the laser cutter cannot cut through metal. Yeah, and just you know, make some front and back plates and make it look nice. So basically the idea is, on the front we're gonna have power, we're gonna have reverb on and off, we're gonna have a plus and a minus, or a minus and a plus, and possibly in the future an LED, no, an LCD screen. Yeah, and on the back we're gonna have MIDI in, power, and a line out. Oh, and on the front also the volume control. So yeah. Okay, well, that's all well and good, but what does it actually sound like? Well, I have it hooked up currently via MIDI to my modern audio interface, and I'm just gonna record some bits and pieces of some game soundtracks that I downloaded in General MIDI format, and we're gonna hear what it sounds like. Alright, so to my ears at least, that all sounds really good, especially like the jazz stuff from Transport Tycoon, which is a really awesome soundtrack, and Descent sounds really good, the more electronic stuff. There's good bass to this this MIDI synth. There's lots of good bass sounds, and overall it just sounds really good, so I look forward to using this on actual games. But for now, I think I'm gonna end this video here. I know we didn't exactly do much in this episode, so to speak, but next time we're actually gonna try putting this together and putting it in the case, and then we're gonna connect it to an actual MS-DOS computer. But yeah, I'm trying not to make extremely long videos, and I'm trying to get them out so they happen, because I have a lot of video projects actually lined up, but the files are just laying around on the hard drive at the moment. So I'm gonna try getting this out, and with the song samples, I think it's long enough already. So anyway, yeah, that's it for the moment. See ya.